Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Discover the Camino de Santiago. Yay, it is one of my very favorite things to talk about. And we're going to have a fun hour diving into it and just learning all about it. I mean, on a specific theme. Like I was just saying, we have 6 of these sessions scheduled so that we can touch on a different theme. We can have like an overview of the Camino, but then we touch on a different theme. We have different storytellers. So joining me today is Susie and Kimberly. We also have Anne Marie, who was with us as well. She may chime in with some stories, and she'll be on a couple of future calls. So I put in the chat if you want to take a look at some of the upcoming sessions, and if there's a theme that is interesting to you, please join us for that as well. We'd love to have you. We really have a lot of fun talking about this. Um, and I'm so excited to see faces that I don't know yet. So I will tell you, I am Lisa Corrado. I am an adventure coach who is super duper passionate about connecting people with adventure. So they have the benefit that I have experienced in my life, which is when you bring more adventure into your life, everything rearranges itself so that you work less, you get to play more, but you still get to grow the success you really love, whether that's in a business you own and run or in your personal life or both. It really has magical, mystical powers. And the Camino is certainly an adventure. So I personally walked the entire French route of the Camino in 2 years ago, and I took 2 months to do that. So I started in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. I don't know, Julie, how close that is to Montpellier, but certainly it's starting in France. And it was absolutely incredible and transformative. That is one of the Camino's superpowers, 100% giving you the opportunity to create transformation in your life. And it also gives you really some beautiful, beautiful simplified days and a simplified existence while you're having your Camino days. That's going to be the focus of our call today. So it's one of the great beauties of the Camino, and I want to share that with you. Um, it's important to say that when I did the Camino by myself in 2023, I did it solo. So it was 2 months of me walking by myself, and I met people along the way. And also, what I realized was I was missing something, and that was other people I knew, like other people I knew who knew me. I'd get to big milestones, and I'd have nobody to celebrate with, which felt kind of sad. Sometimes it felt pretty lonely. I didn't have anyone really, by my side supporting me or cheering me on. You meet people along the way, but it's not the same as going with people that you know. So when I got back from my solo trip, I dreamed up a group experience, and one in which the focus is on building a community before we even got to the walking part of it, so that by the time we gathered in Spain, we'd be there as friends, not as strangers. And I'm joined today by 3 of my Camino friends, Kimberly, Susie, Anne Marie. They came on the Camino in the group of 13 that I led this year. And we're going to share our experiences with you. And that's what I'm very excited about. And I'll also, later on, I'm going to share more about what we have coming up in 2025. So we have a new experience for 2025, and I'm super excited. And some of our Camino girls are coming with us again, some of our Camino people, I will say. So stay tuned for that. But first, I want to start with the question I often get asked is, why would you go on the Camino in the first place? Some people have their own answers. Some people are like, wait, why? Why would you even do that? And I have a lot of things to say about that. My first is that this is a pilgrimage. The Camino is a pilgrimage. It's an opportunity to really take a journey into personal transformation, which is not an opportunity we get every day, right? It's a chance to pull yourself up and out of your daily life stripping your days down to the essentials. We're really going to talk about that today. Really simplifying things, and being in a like-minded community of other people who are seeking, other seekers who are walking along the same path. So you're immersed in this like field of pure potentiality, which just feels so amazing. Even if you're there by yourself, you know that the people who have backpacks on, who are walking along, like they know what you're doing, right? They're doing the same thing as you, and you're all in this beautiful field of, seeking what's possible. And a lot of what's possible is strength and resilience. Certainly those are physical muscles that you build as you train to walk, as you were walking, but also in a mental and a spiritual capacity. It really is strengthening and really allows you to tap in to your capacity for resilience. It's a chance to get to know yourself better, right? How often do we give ourselves this time to really be with ourselves without the distractions of, our families, our loved ones, the world around us? It's a chance to really uncover what you truly want. And I don't think there's anything like a pilgrimage to give you this possibility, this opportunity. I really don't. There's something so powerful about going on a journey. And I'm going to talk a little bit about pilgrimage, and then I'm going to open it up to Susie and to Kimberly to give a chance to share a little bit, especially like what made them interested about it. We're going to continue on and talk about what our days look like, what life is like on the Camino. And I should say I'd like this to be interactive. So if you guys have questions along the way or comments, please raise your hand, physically, or use the Zoom raise hand thing. I want to make sure I answer any questions that you have. Okay. All right. Thank you. And Susie and Kimberly, please watch the chat for me so I can focus on this. So what's a pilgrimage? Pilgrimage. So the definition itself is really rooted in a religious meaning, religious meaning, describing like a prolonged journey from one's daily life, from one's home to a sacred place of religious significance. And lots of religions have the concept of a pilgrimage. And it is a transient experience. It is a experience where you are removed from your home environment, from everything you know for certain. You might be removed from your identity as you travel the pathway. So for the Camino, it looks like people, especially, people in Europe, walking out of their house, shutting the door, and walking along. And pilgrimage represents really a quest, which is another word that I love, a quest for deeper understanding, for connection, for a lot of connection with yourself, and for enlightenment. So the way the Camino came about, it really started as a way for Catholic pilgrims to make the journey from their homes, like I said, wherever they lived, to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. And they would walk to the Cathedral of St. James. They'd walk into the plaza. Well, hundreds of years ago, it wasn't the big, beautiful cathedral of what it is now, but they would make their way there. And a lot of them would do it with believing in a promise of being free from paying penance for their sins. So that's why probably a lot of them were making this pilgrimage. And now, it's been hundreds of years. Right now it's a well-traveled path to self-discovery. People do it for lots of other reasons. People still do it for religious reasons, but you might do it for spiritual reasons. You might be seeking something spiritually. You might want like the physical challenge, to be able to say like, hey, I walked 500 miles. Look at me. Part of the reason I did it initially by myself, not gonna lie, I do love bragging rights. You might want to just have the time and space to yourself to really kind of uncover what's true. And it really, no matter why you're there, it does lead to personal transformation. It does have a lasting impact on you. So I first undertook the Camino by myself because I wanted a solo journey that was big and scary. Those were the words I kept using. I want to do something big and scary by myself. And I didn't know what that looked like. And I spent a couple of years trying to figure it out. And finally, I was brainstorming with a dear friend of mine, and he was throwing out ideas and throwing out ideas like, how about the Appalachian Trail? I'm like, ugh, camping. Yeah, how about the Pacific Crest Trail? Camping again, and finally, like the Camino. And I actually didn't know a lot about the Camino. So when I Googled it, I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? So I decided the Camino was for me because I loved that there was a lot of support and structure along the way, which would allow me to show up and have the experience. Um, for me, my intention was to get some answers to big questions in my life. I had a list of questions. I'm like, okay, I am going to get my answers. And the Camino was like, that's adorable. Here's what's really going to happen. And I did eventually get my answers to my questions, but what I learned was that to get the most out of this pilgrimage experience, I wanted to be out of my head. I wanted to be in the sensory experience and really experience the journey itself. And once I made that shift, then everything changed and it became much more impactful for me and much more meaningful for me. And yes, I came home and eventually got my answers. It was as though I was seeking them like, are my answers here? Are they here? Are they here? And the Camino was like, sweetie, just walk. Like it's gonna come to you. So that was my personal experience. What I'd like to do is hear from, let's maybe start with Susie, and then Kimberly, and hear like what made you decide that you wanted to do this?
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say hi to Julie and Anne Marie because I get to train them. They come to the classes we teach, so they can physically do it. I just need to say that straight out. The why I chose to do it, truthfully, I'd never even heard of the Camino, and it wasn't a religious experience for me. And I'm actually Jewish, so St. James didn't even know what he did. Had to learn about that and learned about it along the way. Um, and it was great to learn. I really went because if I, wanted to add more experiences in my life, I like to travel. And so I had seen another Pellegrino that was signed up for it, and she wrote she was doing it. And all I said is, wow, that sounds like it's right up my alley. Because if you were to put something that's spiritual, Anne Marie, I know that you're like, she lives and breathes it, um, physical and women's empowerment, Julie, like, also right in the center of those circles in the Venn diagram is like my sweet spot. And that's what this trip seemed to be for me. So I hopped on the call with Lisa and we sort of talked about it. I didn't, unlike like as Lisa would say, like, and I wanted to do it with the people that I knew. I didn't know anyone, like really. I mean, I might have met somebody at like a business retreat on a Zoom like this for a minute. But what was so beautiful about what Lisa did is that she was able to kind of create community amongst us with calls throughout the way, with scheduled, we did a couple of hikes if you were in the north, wherever you were convenient, you could team up together. So you got to know people. So when you landed, down in Spain or got to Leon or wherever it's going to be, Portugal or whatnot, that you had your team, you had your crew. And we felt safe with one another. We trusted one another. Some we knew better than others, but you kind of come open-hearted. And so what came out of it, I knew it was going to be a great experience. I knew I was up for the physical challenge of it. That was sort of like, that makes me excited. But I knew if I just remained open, for me, the spirituality of it, well, though we can get into this a little bit later, wasn't necessarily like the hair on my arm stood up the way it might normally. And I'm pretty spiritual all the time. It was about the joy of being present in the day. Like literally there was nothing else you were doing but being present. And I think when you're present, there's a huge amount of spirituality that happens that you really get to know yourself. So that's, I would say, what I got.
I love that, Susan. I love how you framed being present as a way to open up to, like really what wants to come in. I hadn't thought of it that way, and I love the idea of that. I really, really do. I think it's very, very true. And the Camino does ask you to be present in your days, unlike how I started. But certainly that's how we walk together and how I did my solo part myself. So Kimberly, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what made you decide to do it?
Well, we had our chat, and you and I talked about, like, how much I love adventuring, how much I love hiking, and and I'm a huge international traveler, so the trip and the adventure itself seemed right up my alley. And also, there was really no like specific spiritual reason. I just know it's known as this transformative journey, this pilgrimage, and I was like ready for something, right? Ready for something. And also, I read the book The Comfort Crisis, and in it they talk about this idea of misogi. And a misogi is an annual, basically it's a Japanese term that describes an annual adventure, something that is hard for you to do. Very, very hard. One of the properties of misogi is you have at least a 50% chance of failure. And upon reading The Comfort Crisis, I'm like, I want to do a misogi every year. So, and it builds your grit and fortitude and a whole bunch of stuff that you don't even know until it's happening. So Lisa, when you invited me, I was like, oh, this feels like an opportunity for a misogi. So I talked with my husband about it, and I really went into it totally open heart, open mind, because I know whenever I'm attached to an idea of something I want, a desire, like I want this out of it, I want answers, like you were saying, Lisa, I want these answers to these questions, and the pilgrimage adventure, whatever it is, will deliver to you something entirely different. You just kind of have to surrender to the experience. And so I went in wanting this misogi, and also like, okay, I know something's going to come out of this. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's friendships, if it's more physical stamina, if it's the community, if it's the air, whatever. I'm open. And so much, like Susie was saying, came out of it from the connection. I didn't expect the connection with everyone to be as strong as it ended up being, which is really, really cool. Um, and it was just a delight to have that physical challenge. Like Lisa did and I don't want to get, I know this is, I guess this steps into daily life on the Camino, but I will say this, and I'll kick it back to you, Lisa, as Lisa has done such an amazing job with fresco tours of making it easeful without it feeling overwhelming. Um, and there's a support van there that will carry your stuff so you don't have to carry a huge heavy load. Well, because I was on a misogi, I wanted to carry my load. I wanted, and like you could ask all the girls who were here with me, like I had this Santa sack every day, and I was still able to get my misogi, but it was so nice how Lisa has structured it that you don't have to do that. Like everything is taken care of, everything. And it's amazing. And you don't have to worry or freak out about anything because Lisa's got it all covered.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, that really, oh, Susie, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I'm a lot like Lisa, where I was like, I will do whatever you want all day long physically. I'll get as dirty as you want. You want me to, whatever it is, I'll do it. But I want to shower in a bed. Like, I'm not going to camp. And I'm certainly not going to camp if I had to walk 10 days in a row because I'm nervous. Like, what's going to happen? Are my feet going to hurt? What's that all about? So I'm with you with the not camping. That's it.
Yes. Yes. Although Kimberly and I are talking about maybe learning how to camp together at some point. That's a whole different ham sandwich. I'll say it that way. I want to show you. I want to show you a quick video of some of our favorite moments from the Camino, and we'll talk some more about what our days look like. So it was this past time, and I'm going to start to focus on that because those are going to be where a lot of the stories come from. It was 13 of us. It was me and 12 other people. Everybody having, their own intention, their own reason for being there, everybody having their own misogi. It was a misogi for me too. I would say, like, will I be able to do this in such a way that it feels like a success, where I have created a space for everybody else, and everybody is, having the experience, or I was going to say having the experience they want to have, which is yes, and also having the experience that is coming their way. So give me a second here to share. Share. I'm going to share my. Sorry. Zoom like changes every day. And I'm trying to figure out how to share just my photos. So I'm not going to share just my photos. I'm going to share my whole desktop. No poking around. Let me find my photos here. All right. Can you guys see the photo dashboard? Okay, let me play the slideshow. Okay, I get to that video and I get very, very teary. There's, you can see the back of one of the other women in our group, Michelle, going, "You did it, you did it, we did it, we did it." And it was just a lot of celebrating. And I have watched that video many times and I cry every time. Isn't that interesting? So, oh my good grief. Yeah, there's it's pretty powerful. It is pretty powerful. Okay. So anyway, pulling it together, I want to talk about, and I, I want to talk about who does this kind of thing. And I'm curious to see if anybody here recognizes themselves in this. So I believe that a pilgrimage is really for growth-minded people, people who believe in possibility, right? If you're going on a pilgrimage, it's different than I'm going on a fun beach vacation. You're seeking something. And like I said in the beginning, it could be whatever, everybody has a different thing that they're seeking. Um, Pilgrimage is undertaken by pilgrims. We're called pilgrims. And the common thread, really, I noticed this with all the people I talk to. It's really, what are you seeking? Could be a spiritual meaning, could be a physical challenge, it could be time away from the daily grind, and so on. So for any sort of pilgrimage experience you might be considering, whether it's the Camino, whether it's something else, some other kind of sabbatical, a great question to ask yourself is, what could I look like? What could it look like if I actually find what I'm seeking? Like, what's possible if I find what I'm seeking. And be ready for, something life-changing. Let's talk about, what this looks like and how we make this happen, and we can dive into what the daily days look like. So the journey starts when you make the decision to go. There's the walk itself, yes, and then there's so much more that wants to happen before you even step foot on the path. So in the case of our groups, it looked like, and you've heard this, building community, gathering people together. So we build relationships, we're getting support from one another, we're cheering one another on. There's a lot of preparation, right? Of course, there's a lot of physical preparation. You want to know that your body can walk several miles a day, several days in a row, and that you're going to feel pretty good about it. You also want to get your life ready, right? So think about what you have going in your life. Whatever is keeping you busy, that wants some attention and some care and setting up so that that you can step out of your daily life in order to be fully present for the walking experience. And for those of us who run our own business, that's like a whole other layer of getting ready. If you have a business that relies on you too. So when I walked solo, I did it for 2 months, and I put a lot of structure in place so that I could work only 1 day a week for 8 weeks. And my business grew, like it thrived. So I know for a fact that there's a lot you can do, whatever is, demanding your attention in your daily life. There's a lot you can do ahead of time to make sure that you can be fully present for whatever pilgrimage considering. And there's also this concept of enrolling the people around you, your family, your friends, your loved ones, enrolling them so you get the support. Like it looked like my husband was great with me going, he's like, that's fine. My parents, my 80-year-old parents, were a whole other story. So I had to enroll my parents in this because my father was afraid that I would not come back, that something terrible would happen. And, that's a parental worry. It's not a big worry on the Camino. It wasn't something I was worried about. So you also have to consider, what are you packing? What are you bringing? What are you not bringing? Good question. What are you not packing? And all of that leads up to the walk itself. And I think that this is a great time to really dive into, like, what does a day on the Camino look like? I have thoughts on that, and I would like my friends to chime in. Kimberly, maybe we'll start with you, and then we'll move to Susie. What
Yeah.
what what does the day look like on the Camino, and what did you like about that?
So it was waking up. Well, the sun rises really late, guys, really late. And like Susie and I for are super morning people. And like the sun does not begin to rise until like 8:30. So it's like, so those of you who are night owls, or those of you who want to sleep in because you're walking so much, you get to sleep in because the sun comes up late. We would have breakfast every morning taken care of for us. It was wonderful. Just wake up, get ready, make sure you're in your walking clothes, and then we'd have a beautiful breakfast together. Pro tip in those breakfasts together, hoard your butter. That's one of the only times you can get butter. So if you like butter, get it at breakfast.
I will
There's
say
inside
that
jokes.
Kimberly's nickname was mantequilla, which is Spanish for butter.
Yes, I was everyone's butter dealer because come dinner, when they handed out olive oil, not butter, everyone was hitting me up for butter patties. So if you like butter, collect them at breakfast. Then what was really beautiful, and I'm kind of like, before you woke up, so the night before, fresco tours, they gave you a little like map, a little paper, and they kind of walked you through what the next day would look like. And it was really helpful. It was really helpful to have like a little meeting each day being like, okay. And they said, okay, here's where at this cafe you want this, or there's a cool stamp at this cafe, or you want to stop here for second breakfast. Having that roadmap, including a little line graph as to what like the actual walk would look like, was so helpful. So you felt super prepared going into each day with your little piece of paper outlining what the day would look like. So we'd have breakfast, then we would just start walking. And one thing that I love that Lisa encouraged, because this was one of my concerns going into it, was, is there going to be this expectation that we have to walk together all the time? Because everyone has different fitness levels, everyone has different speed level. So I'm like, what is this going to look like in actuality? And Lisa did such a great job of, well, first of all, I think it happened organically because Lisa, you curated such a great group. That sometimes you walk together as a group. Sometimes, like Susie and I walk together a ton. We had a little group of 4 of us that happened to, walk together a lot. And Lisa would say, hey, if you haven't had time to walk alone yet, maybe perhaps take some time to walk alone today. And so I loved the freedom of, there was one time I wanted to connect with someone who I hadn't really talked to very much the whole trip. And Susie and I were walking together. And I said, yeah, I think I want to connect with this person. And Susie's like, she actually literally stopped. She's like, go ahead, go. So it was so great how there was no expectations and no drama around, am I supposed to be walking with someone or walking with a group? It's just, we know where we had to be for lunch. We know where we had to do our check-ins with the van. There was so much freedom in that. And that really, for me, really added to my experience in such a beautiful way. So we'd have breakfast, then we'd walk, have lunch. They eat late in Spain. So lunch would usually be more like in the 1 to 2 range. What was neat, I mean, they try and do picnics when the weather is nice, and the picnics are awesome. However, when the weather is not great, they take you to these great restaurants, and they try and pick food that's indigenous to that area of Galicia. Like we ate in one town where they're famous for octopus. So there's octopus. So each of the restaurants had different cuisine, and it was great. Then you would continue walking and finish your walk for the day. Sometimes we had a lot of free time in the afternoon because it was a shorter walking day. Sometimes there was a little less, but usually we got to get to our manor house or wherever we were, hotel, wherever we were staying. And we usually had some time, just some free time if you wanted to walk around, if you wanted to hang out with your sisters, if you wanted to shower, take a nap, or get a massage. And then we would have our nightly meeting around 7:30, where we would get the scope for the next day. And then we'd have a delightful dinner together, an absolute delightful dinner. And the Spaniards eat, like I said, they eat late because it was neat to learn this. When they look outside, and if it still looks light to them, it's not dinner time yet. Like it actually has to be dark outside for them to eat dinner. And so for morning people, like it took me a day or two to get used to that new schedule, but you get used to it. It's easy.
Yeah. Yeah, what a beautiful rundown of what our days were typically like. I love that. And you really touched on like how much structure we had in place so that we can show up for the experience. Like all we had to do was show up for ourselves. And Susie, I know, there was something very specific you said to me that you loved, that kind of plays along with that. And I'd love for you to share that as well.
I don't know what I said.
Oh, Susie. No, Susie. I'm pointing to Susie.
Oh, you're pointing to Susie. I'm like,
what do you say? I thought you were talking to Kimberly. And I'm seeing what
so you had said something that you really loved about being on the Camino. Something about, I mean, you just
sure. Well, for me, being on the Camino, there's a bunch of sort of where I'll go with it. Being on the Camino is I didn't actually have to do anything other than walk. Like the only thing I had to focus on was my best next step. But if we're going to unpack the day or whatever, I want to tack on to what you said, Lisa, up front about getting everybody enrolled around you. If you're like I know Julie owns a business, or if somebody's watching this on the replay and they're a business owner, you will find that your client, everybody is into it. You think like it's nerve-wracking to step away from your business, and they'll be like, wait, what? Tell me more. I cannot tell you from the minute I signed up till even now, tell me about the Camino. What are you doing? What is it going to look like? How's it going to be? What's it all about? Like they get into it, and then they support you. And so when they realize, so when are you going to be gone? You can get some stuff done beforehand. My team is going to help me in the middle. I'll loop back on the end. So I just wanted to kind of drop that in there a little bit, because I could see that could be nerve-wracking. And it certainly happened for me where, you guys saw certainly at, the coaches all stepped in, and it's like, what do you got? My event stuff stepped in, it can work. As far as the day-to-day, Kimberly really outlined it beautifully. And that night before, another reason why it's so great to have that meeting is you get to see the elevations, the ups and downs, what's the temperature going to be like, so you kind of know how to dress, what shoes you might wear. I alternated 2 pairs of shoes because that was important to me. The types of places we stayed at were hotels or manor homes where you have the option, depending on, I imagine, where you're going to structure it, you can have your own room or you can share. It is very comfortable. There is no if you happen to watch The Way and you see those hostels where there's there's no bunk beds, there's no group bathrooms that everybody's using. It is, imagine you're at a hotel or an bed and breakfast or something like that, but much nicer because everything there is nicer.
That's you brought up two really great points, Susie. Like when I did it by myself, I stayed in a lot of albergues, especially in the beginning. And it was me and 30 of my closest friends sharing a bathroom. That was so not fun. Like part of the reason I set the group experience up to have a travel partner who handled that was like I struggled a lot. Like I wasn't just that I was challenged, I struggled. I struggled to figure out where I was going to sleep. And then I'd get there and I'd be sleeping in a room of, 11 other people, at least one of whom is snoring, and the only person who's sleeping is the person who's snoring, and then there's a lot of coughing, and there's just, it really wasn't, it was hard. And then I would also find that I was really making my way, like instead of enjoying the journey, I was like, okay, I got to get to the town that I think I want to sleep in so that I can get a bed. And that was nerve-wracking. So that the bed race, exactly, Kimberly, it's called the bed race.
The other thing I might want to drop in, and I don't know if it'll be in futures, but I imagine it might. There were times where, and I did not anticipate this beforehand, but it was awesome, that we would stay in a place for 2 days or one time 3 days. The cool part about that is you get to unpack your bag. You get to do laundry. That's a big concern of people, laundry. And so when you're in somewhere, I was washing clothes. Anytime I was somewhere more than one night, I would wash it. It would be hanging in my bathroom or whatever. But there was even laundry services available when we were there a little longer. And so that stuff becomes really easy, in the time. And I didn't realize that was going to happen, but it was definitely value added.
I totally agree. Like I thought every night we would be somewhere different. So when our guides were like, okay, in the place we go tonight, we're going to be there for 3 days. It's like, oh, wow. I agree. That was cool.
So the van would take you
also,
to the left, right? And when you think about it, if you're walking 10 or 15 miles, what is that? 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of a ride. It's not that far to drive you to where you ended to walk the next day.
And what I really want to highlight is that all of this stuff that we're talking about leads to what I quite enjoy about the Camino, which is the simplicity of days. All of this other stuff is handled for you. And also leading up to it, you can prepare yourself. You can enroll the people around you. You can get your business ready. You can get your home life ready so that you can have this beautiful simplicity and ease of what's expected of you. Like Susie said, like all I have to do is walk. Like you get up, you eat, you walk. Maybe stop for second breakfast, one of life's greatest pleasures. And then you walk, and then you stop for lunch. So it's really just, I walk, I eat, I walk, I eat, I take a shower, I repeat, and it just gives you this space. That's what I really love about the Camino is it gives you this space to just be with what's really important and not mess around with all the logistical stuff or the other stuff that typically would want your attention. Like you can have that all covered so that you can have this rich, rich, rich experience. Yeah.
And even if you don't, oh, go ahead. Even the simplicity of your wardrobe, I loved. I was shedding clothes along the way. I came home with like 3 pairs of pants and 3 shirts, and I found I have 2 wardrobes and closets, and all I'm wearing these days is the same 3 outfits I wore for 3 weeks, including today. This is my Camino uniform, and just the simplicity of not even like it doesn't matter, just wear the same thing.
Right. And
that's what I loved about it. I had 2 outfits when I soloed, and I didn't have to make those decisions. And somebody on our call last night was talking about how she came home and got rid of 40% of her clothes. Like you realize you don't need all the stuff. And when you pare things down, it's just lovely because then you're giving yourself more space. You're giving yourself more head space and more heart space. And more space to move around, and you're not managing the things, the clothes in your closet, that kind of thing. So it's one of the beautiful lasting impacts of the Camino.
Yes. Another, I wanted to chime, there's a couple things I forgot to say about day to day. One, the guys from Fresco Tours, when you're on the van or as you got the day, they are actually educating you as to what you're about to see, what the history is about it. So when I said I knew not much about St. James, or I knew not much about what's going to go down or the area we were in, or why like it's Barcelona or Galicia with the TH, and now the king has a list, but now we all know that or something. You are being educated along the way, which is really cool. And what you take away with it is great. The other part is you absolutely, and Julie, I saw you ask about people outside of the group. You are meeting people from all over the world, all over the world. Like we had them in from Taiwan, in Ireland, in Italy, in South America. I mean, in all different parts of the US. And to get one of the fun facts that I remember, and I literally remember nothing. Like I'm often like, oh, I forgot. Oh yeah, what was it? It was something like 1973, 36 people walked the Camino and got that stamp. This year, they're estimating 500,000 people. Like that to me was so mind blowing that this has really become an international, kind of extravaganza pilgrimage, and people go for all different reasons. So it's really nice. And when you meet people along the way, you might not see them again ever. You might meet up with them again in another town. Like, oh my God, they're like, and you wouldn't always have names. You'd be like, oh my God, there's New Hampshire,
Yeah.
because you
That
meet
happens all the time. Yep.
yeah, there's Italy, the guy with the KT tape on the back of his legs. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes.
There's
So
Ireland. Yeah.
right. It was great. So that's it.
Yeah, and I also want to point out there are different routes. Like both of these trips we did, my solo trip and this group trip, we did the French route. Next year we're going to do the Portuguese route. So there are also several, like lots of different routes. So when you hear about, they're anticipating maybe 500,000 people did it this past year, it's not all on the same pathway. It's not like you're in this on a highway of people, which to me would feel completely unappealing. Like I wouldn't want that. So, um, Julie, you asked how long was your trip? So we were together for 10 days. And we walked really 9 of those days, and we covered about 75 miles over that time. And the mileage tended to range between, I think our shortest day was 6 miles and our longest day was 11 or 13. It was billed as 11, but my watch clocked it at 13, probably because I was moving around a lot, and then everything in between. So the way that we do it is have different variations of mileage available to you. And you do as much as you want. So and what was really delightful also to see was the people who showed up and did so much more than they expected, and were able to do a lot more. And then the people who are like, all right, I'm gonna just do even more. So we do get to have our own walk, and we get to have our own Camino. So it's the beauty of this experience.
Should we talk
Susie,
about
it looks like you want to
passports?
show your sure. And then I want to share a little bit more about next year.
Right. So the one thing that which feels like a pretty big thing that we might want to mention or whatever, that I was like, oh, I didn't even say that. Along the day, part of when we're walking, there's a really fun aspect about walking the Camino, and you get something called a passport or credentials, or everybody calls it different things. And what you do is you are asked to try to get at least 2 stamps per day for the last, I don't know, 100 kilometers, don't quote me, whatever it is, to get your final stamp, which is this one right here, is from the Santiago. But you get to create this sort of kind of like storybook of what it looks like along the way, where you stopped. And it helps kind of, keep your journal, and it almost gamifies in a funny way, like oh my God, are we going to stop here? Are we going to get the stamp? And as you go along, there's a little bit of an economy that's then been built from this, right? You're dropping €1 because I'm going to go buy a banana, or I'm going to get a bracelet, or whatever it is, and you're going to get a stamp. You're going to go to a bar and you're going to get whatever that is, a drink. I need café con leche, which is what we drink all day long. There's stamps along the way because there's we had a lot of fun with it. Ooh, am I seeing you guys? Did I hit something here? Okay.
Oh,
So
I'm spotlighting you, Susie, so everybody could see your passport better.
yeah, I have 2. We have 2. Like I did it, so I'm gonna probably frame these. And this is like a great sort of, I don't know, like a diary of what we did. And when you come back and you show people, it's like a proud moment and people really are into it.
Yeah. It really was so much fun. It really, really was. And then, whoever was ahead of us would be like, there's a really cool stamp at this next shop, pass it on. And sometimes there'd be wax stamps, which were so worth waiting for. So it really, it really became like a game and a fun way to also meet some of the local business people, and everybody's stamp is a different design. Every business has a different design stamp. So it'd be really like, which ones did you get? What do they look like? And they're all different. They're different colors, they're different designs. So much fun. So much fun. I want to show you, I want to see, first of all, are there any other questions right now? We're not done with questions, but I want to see if there are any other questions. There have been some great questions in the chat.
I have a question about your feet, because I've heard from a lot of people that blisters and other things occur that can be quite debilitating. So how do you avoid that? And did you have like nurses along the, like what happens if you do?
Well, a lot of it is addressed in the preparation. So being very proactive. So when, as part of our regular meetings together, we talked about, what are your shoes? What are your socks? And those are like, shoes and socks are some of the most important things you can talk about in terms of preparation. Absolutely. And so we talk about, finding the right shoes for you, finding the right socks for you. So I would be encouraging people, like, try different things. If you don't already have a shoe and a sock that you love, try different things. And then it's the ability to, especially since you don't have to carry all your stuff if you don't want to, you can bring, I brought 2 different pairs of shoes. I think other people did as well. So you can have different shoes, either for different terrain, which can be helpful, or also simply, in case a pair gets wet. So that's the biggest thing when you're in the walking experience, wanting to keep your feet dry. So then we talk about, how do you do that? So it's having extra pairs of socks if it's a rainy day, maybe having a second pair of shoes that you have access to. How do you use moleskin, or like, I have a different way that I like to do it. Do you use sock liners? So much of that is addressed leading, before we even begin. Like, that's the best way. The best way to deal with a blister is to avoid a blister, no question. And then along the way, it's like, okay, what can you pack that will help you if you do get a blister? What do you do if you feel like you're starting to get a blister? So it would be like, you got to stop, you got to change, change your socks, or, whatever it was. So I don't remember hearing a lot of blister issues at all, because we really did. So that, Julie, I love that you asked this question, because it is so, so, so important, because it will really impact, how your journey goes. So we really focus on proactive avoidance of the blister in the first place. So there's a lot you can do ahead of time.
Totally agree.
That's one more.
I was going to say, I was moleskin my toes anywhere that was slightly would be a hot spot. The minute you might feel something, or I just from day one moleskin my feet up where I thought it might bother me. Never had a blister the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just want to confirm that I'm understanding. So if you want to carry a bag, you can, but if you don't, there's a van that's taking all your stuff.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So this might be a good time for me to share what it looks like, what it looked like for us in terms of logistics this last time, and what it's going to look like next year, because I think, that will answer your question as well. But we do handle all of that stuff. So let me share my screen again. I'm getting so good at this. Okay. Can everybody see that? Look at me. All right. So next year, like I said, we're doing the Portuguese route, and the walking part itself commences September 16th. So we gather as a group September 16th through the 26th, and that's the walking part. And this is the route. So you can see we've got Spain. Most of this is Spain. And then you've got Portugal here. We're going to start in Portugal and walk north. We're going to start just north of Porto. in a city called Guimarães, and we're going to walk up. Santiago is this part right here. So we're going to be walking along the Portuguese coast, which I'm so excited about. There's so much beauty on the Camino, and I'm really excited to be walking much closer to the coast this time. So what is handled? All the logistics are handled because that's how I want it to be so that everybody can have a full experience. So the lodging is handled. This is a place we stayed this past time. This was an old monastery. So we stay in really interesting places. Sometimes it's a hotel, sometimes it's a bed and breakfast, sometimes it's a restored manor house. So different types of places. And since we have the van, we also have the ability to stay off of the Camino without doing additional walking. So in that case, what happens is the van picks us up, drives us to where we're staying. So we get to stay in a place that most people wouldn't be able to stay. And then the next morning, the van brings us back to where we stopped and we just pick up the walking again. This is a hotel that we stayed in. This was my room. There's nothing like being in a nice, cushy, comfortable room at the end of a long day of walking. So this is just an example of what a room could look like. All the food is taken care of from the initial gathering dinner till breakfast on the last day. I think it was Kimberly who mentioned that when the weather is good, the guides will make a trailside picnic for us at lunch, which those were just the best. Just the best. It felt really nourishing, lots of really delicious food. And when we couldn't do that because the weather wasn't awesome, we would be at a restaurant and have really wonderful food. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks are all handled for you, are all prepared for you, all given to you all along the way. That was a nice, there was one woman, the joke was her husband said, "Oh, you don't have to make me dinner for 2 weeks." And she's like, "No, no, 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 no. For 2 weeks, someone is making me dinner." Like, it's not just about, I don't have to take care of you. Someone's taking care of me. So I said, yeah, take a picture of all the photos and send them off to your husband. So really like very farm fresh, delicious stuff. This is the van that we've been talking about. So we have guides, we've got a driver, and we've got this van that will carry your big pack. And also most of us had a suitcase because this became part of a larger trip. Maybe you're spending a few days ahead of time, maybe you're spending a few days afterwards. So it's all transported for you. You decide how much you want to carry. It could be practically nothing. In Kimberly's case, she wanted to carry everything because she wanted that challenge, and then everything in between. And we access the van all throughout the day. There are 2 checkpoints. So the guides know when everybody has gone through, and that, because people are separating, we get to split up and walk at our own pace. And then if somebody decides like, I want to walk, I'm not feeling I want to walk or I want to ride, I'm not going to do the whole walk today. For whatever reason, you meet the van at different points along the way. So you can start off with taking the van if you want, or you can, walk a little bit and pick up the van later on. So we had a lot of people taking advantage of that, which was really great. So that was something I really wanted, because when I did my solo walk, I had some foot issues and I couldn't walk every mile every day as much as I wanted to. Like, it just simply wasn't possible. So I took public transport, I took buses, I took taxis, that kind of thing. So I wanted to have this in place so that people didn't have to fret. You didn't have to fret, and it's peace of mind. It's peace of mind. We're going to be in this beautiful area of the world, just seeing Portugal and Spain and really just loving it. And then getting, even though we're starting in Portugal, we're going to wind up in Santiago de Compostela, and have this wonderful experience as a group where we get there and we've done it. We have done it. So that's what it looks like. What I would encourage you to think about is, what could a pilgrimage experience do for you? Like, what's possible? What could it be like if you have this expanse of time? Julie, I will share costs in just a minute. Absolutely. I'm going to share all the details. So, here's why you might want to join us on the Camino next year. This journey will help transform you. It will give you that space and grace for transformation. It will answer the questions you're asking. It will answer the questions you don't even know that you're asking. That's one of the superpowers of the Camino. It will help connect you to what's next for you, what's right for you. It will ask you to get ready in so many ways, in ways that will have a lasting impact on the rest of your life. Physically, changing your body, changing your wellness habits, spiritually, opening up your curiosity, opening up your seekingness. It will make you simplify other aspects of your life so you can turn your focus to this. And that is a beautiful, powerful thing to have continue. It will give you space to connect with what you really want. It'll help you see what you're capable of doing. We all got pushed and challenged in different ways, and we all came out the other side going, look what I did. I can do that. I can do that. And it gives you this beautiful, uninterrupted time to dive deep into what's true for you. So, the Camino provides. Yeah, 100%, Susie, the Camino provides. So I talked about how all of the details are handled, the lodging, the food, the ground transportation. Before we even get to September, we meet as a group. So we start to build this community together. It's all like-minded people. This past group happened to be all women. It doesn't have to be women only. It's really for people who are growth-minded, who are seeking, who like to support other people, who like to receive support. So whoever that is, people who value growth, people who like to take inspired action, whatever that person looks like, they're welcome on this journey. We spend a lot of time helping you get ready. Talk a lot about blisters, talk a lot about what you're packing, talk about the logistics. We also have extra support if you need help with other travel plans. My travel partner helps with that as well. And by the time we get to Portugal, we know one another. We're a group that knows one another, and that's really exciting. It's really, really exciting. And then once we get there, on this trip, we're going to walk about 80 miles, which is the last step, the last stretch of the Camino Português. And it qualifies you for your Compostela certificate. And that gets facilitated as well. So if that's something that you want, the guides will help us with that as well, so that you receive that certificate, which was kind of neat. This is not a great thing for people who don't like being in a group. It's not a great thing for people who want to walk the Camino solo, because even though, yes, you will have time every day to yourself, you're in a group. That's why. That's my intention, to build this community. It's not great for people who are just like, hey, I'm looking to have a little fun in Portugal and Spain. There's so many other ways to make that happen. This is really building a Camino community and doing this together. We talked about all this. I'm scrolling through. You can't see me do that, but I'm scrolling through. So all the logistics are handled. You will feel very well prepared. Part of what you get too, well, you guys work with Susie, so you'll be physically ready as well. So we will take a 360-degree approach to helping you get ready and feel ready, so that by the time you take that first step, you have so much confidence in what you've set up and also in yourself. That's my intention. I want to set everybody up for so much success and joy and transformation. So here's what it looks like. We'll talk about the investment now. We have a 3-payment plan. There's an initial deposit that holds your spot. The payments are made in euro because they go to my travel partner who's based in Spain. And so I'll tell you about what the deposit is based on the current exchange right now. So the initial deposit is about $2,400, and that's due by December 16th. So we have a pretty aggressive timeline because we're all small businesses working with small businesses. So we want to make a commitment well in advance so the lodging places know how they plan out their year. So $2,400 is due by the middle of December. The second payment is due the middle of March. It's the same amount, about $2,400. And then in the middle of July, the balance is due. That's about $3,500. But that number will change once we have 10 people fully registered and still committed to going in July, because what happens is my travel partner then discounts every single person's final payment by €900, which right now is about $950, $1,000. So once we get to that final payment, if we still have at least 10 people in the group. Last time we had one woman who had to drop out because she had a personal injury. As we got closer, she just couldn't do it. But we still, we had 13 people, so it was fine. So that's what it looks like. And if this speaks to you, I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. I'd love to answer any remaining questions you have, see if this is a fit. Like I said, our enrollment window closes December 16th, which is just about a month, just a little less than a month. So I'd encourage you, if you're curious, let's have a talk. I'm going to put the link to my calendar in the chat. I'm also going to put my cell phone. If it's easier for you to simply text me, simply text me. I don't want you to have to wait to answer any other questions or chat about it to see if it might be something that you want to do next year. And certainly I'd love to have this conversation. And if it's a great fit, I'd love to have you join us and build even more memories and have even more transformation and even more fun and eat even more good food and get all of the fun stamps. So that is, I want to be mindful of time here. I have plenty of time, but I want to see if there are any other questions, any other comments. Let me look in the chat. Yes, Susie, if
You only do it, oh, sorry.
No, Julie, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if you only do it once a year.
Right now, the plan is to do it once a year. In 2026 will look different, but right now I'm focused on doing September. So for 2025, it'll be simply that September time period. 2026, the dates are to be determined, and we'll see if we do more than one then.
And do you know if you're going to do France in 2026 or?
I haven't picked the route yet. So maybe it will probably bop between France and Portuguese, because those are the two of like the main ones. The Camino Frances, the French route, is really, it is the most popular. It has the most structure along the way. Not that we're lacking anything on the other routes, but it's really the most mainstream one. And it's one that has a lot of, like, I find very dear, especially being able to go back and seeing places that we were before is really, really nice.
And did people ever sign up with like a friend, and is there any financial advantage to that?
There is not a financial advantage to that. And yes, people have signed up with friends. We had pairs coming, we had relatives coming. Last time we had a woman and her sister-in-law came, we had other friends who came. So it really was, well, actually, I will say the financial advantage of it, it helps get to the 10 people registered so that you then wind up saving about $1,000. So yes, there is a financial advantage to that.
And is airfare included in what you quoted?
Airfare, excuse me, airfare is not included. So what's not included is getting yourself to our meeting point and then getting yourself to wherever you're going after we're done. So that is not included. Also, things like tips. We tip our guides, we tip our driver. On this particular trip, we had a couple of different tour guides to do like a half, like a couple hour tour. So we gave them a little bit of a tip too. Things like any other personal expenses, like laundry, if you want to do that, any shopping you want to do. All of the meals, and if you're someone who enjoys wine or beer or other alcohol, those are all included with the meals. If you're stopping on your own, and it's not part of a group stop and you wanted to, buy something to eat or something to drink, that would be, something you would pay for as well. But everything else is included.
I have one more question, then I have to run.
Yeah.
Do you ever do these privately? Like if I could get a group of 12 women together, like for my 60th birthday, do you do them that way, or is it only these heterogeneous groups?
I would love to talk to you about doing that privately, because absolutely, yes, it could look just like this. It could look just like this, where the group is getting ready, the group is bonding together. Maybe it's people who know one another already, but maybe it's a way to go even deeper in connections. And then we can have this fun walking experience. So if you'd like to talk about that, I would love to have that conversation with you. We can absolutely set the whole thing up.
Okay, great. And September is the best time of year? Is that why you do September, or is it
No,
more
no,
people are?
it's not the best time of year. It just, so when I picked these dates, September was the best for my schedule. I'll say it that way. But you tend to go between, I'd say like April to October. There are like starting in November, like we're getting into winter, and there are some parts of some routes that might not be accessible. So I wouldn't go that late, and I wouldn't go that much earlier. Like you don't want to do it in the winter is what I'm trying to say. And also when we're thinking about spring, we kind of want to avoid being there around Easter, which is it's a whole big Holy Week, and there will be a lot of people who want to make the trek into Santiago as part of their Easter celebration. So, but other times are total fair game. Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. This was so interesting. And
Thank you
congratulations to you guys for doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So
See you
good to
soon.
see you. I appreciate it.
Bye.
I appreciate it.
Nice to see everybody.
Good to see you, Anne Marie. I can't wait for the
Marie,
call.
meet Anne Marie.
I would
Yeah.
have done my hair if I would have known we were going to be. I thought I was going to get to just watch you guys.
Well, you did, but then you
No,
get to
but I'm
come
on
on and
camera.
yeah.
Anne-Marie
Well,
Golden, do you have any questions? Anne-Marie Golden, who's the other Anne-Marie, is a huge traveler and adventurer, and she was in the Azores by herself just before Paige went. Or, like how Paige went. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
It's so fun.
Yes, I think this is a little too expensive for me though. That's all.
Okay.
But it sounds fascinating. I know a few people who've done it, but not as part of groups. They've gone, individually and met lots of people, but planned their own trip. So, in fact, so there's one couple I know that loved it so much they actually moved there and opened their own facility there for travelers on the road.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
so much. Yeah, they moved there. So on the Spanish, on probably the Portuguese route, I guess, into Spain. But anyway,
Cool.
Yeah.
but yeah. No, but it's been great. I mean, Susie, I was interested in what Susie does because it feels like something I want to do.
Well,
And-
I will say, Anne Marie, if this is not the right way for you to do it, there are other ways for you to do
Oh
it.
yeah, no, I know this. I mean, I would love this. It sounds perfect. I mean, everything's taken care of. It's not that. It's nothing about the trip.
Oh yeah, no, I know. No, I'm just saying
Yeah.
there are less expensive ways to do it 100%. So
Yeah.
keep that door open for yourself. Absolutely.
And if you don't mind me chiming in, I last year I was like, okay, I wanted to say yes, but I didn't know how financially I would make it happen. I'm like, so I said yes, and I'm like, I don't, because I told my husband, I said, if I say yes to this, I want to manifest all the money myself. I don't want it to come from like our joint finances. I want to, and it was amazing that once I said yes, opportunities that I couldn't even imagine just fell into my lap. And I had raised the money for the whole trip in less than 30 days.
Well, you're
I
quite a bit younger than I am. I'm going to be 70, so I don't do too many other things right now to raise money. Not happening.
Right.
And Susie, I know we haven't been at the gym. There's been a lot going on. Been canceling a lot of classes, but I'll speak to you about that
All right. I'll talk to you.
privately. Okay. All right. But thanks for all of it. Okay.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet you,
Anne-Marie.
other Anne-Marie.
All right.
Nice to see both Anne Maries.
Usually Anne-Marie's would dig each other. No, I mean both of you.
Well, when you
Yeah.
said the spiritual thing, I thought you were talking about me, and then I realized you were talking about Anne-Marie, and I'm like, wait, you're spiritual Anne-Marie.